Good afternoon, Kingfisher Lake First Nation. My name is Don Parkinson, and I'm a Senior Consultation Specialist with Atkins Realis. Today, we are continuing our series of Webquay Supply Road virtual community meetings with specific communities as our project moves through consultation round 3 of the environmental assessment phase. Today, we will be doing a review of where we are in the project to date and provide samples of the preliminary results of some of the topics studied, also known as valued components. This will be the first of two parts of this presentation that we will be presenting to communities, with part two covering additional valued components. The purpose of these virtual community meetings is to provide your community and its members with an update on our project and receive input on the project as we walk through the environmental assessment process. While this meeting is virtual, our team is available anytime to meet with your community either in person or in whatever format best suits your community. At the same time, we will respect your community consultation protocols. I want to note that we have shortened the presentation to cover a couple of valued components due to time limits, but the full presentation will be available on our project website, supplyroad.ca. We will be taking your questions and comments once the presentation is over, and I should note that we have translation services available for today's meeting, courtesy of Mr. Fred Jacob of Webquay First Nation, and you can access those via clicking on the show captions icon indicated on your screen by the yellow arrow. So let's get started now with a few words from Chief Wabas of Webquay First Nation, talking about the importance of the project to his community.
Webuque has a vision, for their community, and and we're looking for ways to how to prosper our community, and also to find or address some of the challenges that we have in our community. So we look into economic development, and we look into what's out there that can help us, become a community a vibrant community that is prospering from using the lands and resources. And one of the things that we're doing is that we're looking at some potential economic development opportunities, including, developing a road to potential sites in mineral development. So we are, exploring opportunities for our community, and also looking at our future generation as well too. We like to see be able to have opportunities for our future generation, so they can live a good life and a healthy life, and hopefully with the opportunities that we're looking at, it will generate job opportunities and also bring in a good infrastructure for our community.
Our thanks to Chief Wabas for his thoughtful words about what this project would mean to his community. And with that, we will now move to the presentation, part one of the preliminary results of the valued components, or VCs. Then we're going to come back and take any questions or comments that community members may have. So let us now play the consultation round 3, part 1 video. Welcome to round 3 of the WSR environmental assessment phase. Today we will be covering part 1, which talks about what is being looked at in the provincial environmental and federal impact assessments, how the effects assessment is being completed, and the preliminary effects assessment results for selected value components, which are basically the different things we have studied as part of the environmental assessment or impact assessment. Part 2, which will be part of a separate virtual community meeting, will continue to cover preliminary results of effects assessment for select valued components, but will also cover cumulative effects, which are the leftover effects of this project combined with others from the past, present, and future. Webequie First Nation is about 200 to 250 kilometers from the Hudson Bay and James Bay coasts, and the planned Webequie Supply Road runs south of Webequie and then east to the Ring of Fire area. The purpose of the Webequie Supply Road is to move people and supplies to the Ring of Fire area, create jobs and business opportunities for community members, as well as skills training opportunities for young people. As this is Webequie's project, this will be done in a careful, sensitive way that will preserve and strengthen the community's language and culture. The planned road will be 107 kilometers long, with 17 kilometers on the Webequie First Nation reserve lands. The corridor planning area is 2 kilometers wide, but the actual cleared area will be 35 meters wide, make 3 large water crossings, and will include temporary pits, quarries, equipment storage areas, and construction camps. The road will make 6 major water crossings and will include temporary pits, quarries, equipment storage areas, and 4 construction camps. Now let's talk about the communication we have had with Indigenous communities. In our rounds 1 and 2 of consultation with communities, the project website was updated with new information, notices were sent to all 22 communities offering a variety of engagement options, and in-person and virtual community sessions were conducted, as well as streaming sessions to help community members better understand the process and the project overall. As mentioned, the WSR consultation team offered opportunities for all 28 Indigenous communities to provide input on the project during round 2, as we previously did during round 1. The virtual community sessions with each of the 22 communities were heavily promoted through social media and email. A variety of input was received on the project during round 2, ranging from ownership and responsibility for the completed road, impacts of climate change, employment and training opportunities, business opportunities, and impacts on treaty rights to potential downstream impacts to coastal communities. Much of the feedback related to topics that will be addressed as the project moves closer to construction, or those that are of a more regional nature and have their own process, such as federal regional assessment. Now let's move to the heart of the presentation. Environmental assessments are studies which assess the potential environmental effects, good or bad, of an individual proposal or project. For our purposes, the term environmental assessment, or EA, refers to the provincial process, while impact assessment, or IA, refers to the federal process. Next, we are going to talk about what we are assessing in the EA and IA. As we have mentioned before, valued components, or VCs, are what has been identified by community members, the general public, and technical experts as required for study in the environmental assessment or impact assessment. In parts 1 and 2, we will look at the project's effect on VCs, while in part 2 coming up in a few weeks, we will look at other effects such as accidents or spills. Before we go further, let's review some key terms. Valued components, or VCs, are what are to be studied in the EA and IA. Indicators are the ways to measure potential effects for VCs. Temporal boundaries is the timeline for assessment, and spatial boundaries are the geographic areas for assessment. Now we are going to talk about how the effects assessment is done. Engagement and consultation, as well as Indigenous knowledge, land, and resource use, feeds into the effects assessment steps, including identifying what will be studied, defining boundaries, identifying possible effects, and which are left over after mitigation, then looking at all effects together, and then identifying follow-up and monitoring and overall advantages and disadvantages of the project. We have received a lot of IKLRU information so far, including the purpose of traditional ceremonies, reliance on country foods, and climate change impacts. Existing conditions for each of the VCs are described through background research, engagement and consultation, and field studies. For each valued component, we look at potential effects and pathways, meaning how it happens and the route followed. For example, grading or reshaping the land as part of the project usually hardens the ground, making it harder for rain to get into the soil and lowering groundwater levels. Mitigation can be done in different ways: elimination of effects, reduction in control of effects, and offsets, where improvements can be made elsewhere to improve fish habitat, for example. When we describe the net or leftover effects, we talk about the direction of the changes, be they positive or negative, the amount of change, the area impacted by the effect, when the effect will occur, how long the effect will be, how often it will occur, the social or cultural effect, whether the effect will be permanent, and how likely the effect is to occur. We determine how significant net or leftover effects using a number of methods, such as scientific experts working with community members, assessing risk, ranking or weighing effects, as well as the professional judgment of experts using their knowledge and experience. Cumulative effects are the net effects of a project, combined with the net effects of other past, present, and future projects. It recognizes that the project does not sit alone in terms of impacts. Let's move now to talk about preliminary results of effects assessment for select valued components. While we focus on surface water and fish habitat for this presentation due to limited time, the full version of this presentation that is available on the website will include preliminary results for groundwater, geology, terrain and soils, noise, air quality, and visual environment. The preliminary results for the remaining valued components will be available in part 2 of this presentation, coming to you in a few weeks. However, if anyone is interested in hearing the results for the other valued components, we can discuss these after today's presentation. Let's move now to talk about preliminary results of effects assessment for selected valued components, or VCs. While we focus on surface water and fish habitat for this presentation due to limited time, the full version of this presentation is available on the website and will include preliminary results for groundwater, geology, terrain and soils, noise, air quality, and visual environment. The preliminary results for the remaining valued components will be available in part 2 of this presentation, coming to you in a few weeks. However, if anyone is interested in hearing the results for other VCs, we can discuss them after today's presentation. In terms of what was found regarding surface water, we identified that changes in surface water quantity and quality could occur due to short-term use of water for construction activities, such as controlling dust. There would be short-term discharges of construction water, wastewater, or wash water. There could be changes to the land resulting in changes to how fast the water runs off and how fast the water enters the ground to become groundwater. Airborne particulate matter from construction activities could be generated. Blasting activities could release chemical constituents into nearby water bodies, so chemicals into nearby water bodies. Construction activities that cause erosion and sedimentation could result in increased suspended solids and particulate matter during entering water bodies. There could be runoff and erosion from constructed surfaces of roads and developed areas that could lead to the transportation of suspended solids and particulate matter into water bodies. And finally, road maintenance activities could lead to the deposition of sediment into water bodies. So in terms of what we plan to do to mitigate potential effects on surface water, we can use roadway design to effectively manage runoff, use frequent cross culverts in muskeg areas to prevent water backup, design crossing structures to handle higher control measures, and a spills prevention and emergency response plan. Let's now talk about fish and fish habitat. In terms of what was found, the project could potentially impact fish and fish habitat at crossing structures through changes to watercourses and water bodies, resulting potentially in the release of sediment and the occurrence of spills. Fish harvesting could also increase due to increased access to the area. To mitigate or reduce the impact of these potential fish and fish habitat effects, properly sized culverts allowing fish passage will be used. Fish rescues will be done. Habitat next to watercourses and water bodies, also known as riparian habitat, will be minimized. Habitat will be restored at water crossings. Construction will be timed to avoid impacts to critical life stages of fish, and erosion and sediment control and spills prevention and emergency response plan will be developed and used. Part 2 of this presentation will continue with the preliminary results of the effects assessment for selected valued components and discuss cumulative effects. As of now, the plan is to finalize the environmental assessment in 2026. You can contact us in many ways, through our website, through the individuals that are on the slide as well. Thank you for joining us. Miigwech. Okay, let's open the floor now and see if we have any questions. And it doesn't appear that we do. So with that, that wraps up today's virtual community meeting. Miigwech to everyone for joining us. We hope it was helpful and encourage you to reach out and contact our project team with any questions or comments that you might have. The project website is supplyroad.ca, and we encourage you to join us again for part 2 of this presentation coming to your community in a few weeks. Miigwech, and see you soon.